Hi everyone, welcome to our live today. So, this is our first live, and I hope by conducting these lives we can answer the questions from our attendees. Most of the time, I'm getting questions from our subscribers. They are asking for an opportunity to bring their questions and we can answer them. So I thought maybe doing live is a good way to do that. So just to start, I have put a topic here about broiler breeder growth management, but we can just initiate the conversation and then see how we can go. But I'm monitoring the questions from here, and if you have any question just let me know. I'm checking the questions and I will answer them. So, and also there is a little bit lag because of using the OBS system to share my desktop with you. So I'm assuming that you are hearing me with maybe 10 seconds delay. So if you ask your question here, if there is a little bit delay, don't worry. It's because of the YouTube system. So let's get started. Hi to Muhammad Ashfaq and Joy Nasrani. Thank you very much for joining us today. I can see your comments here. So today, let's start with broiler breeder growth management. And as I said, as we are going through, maybe we will get more ideas about our next lives. If we are going, let's say, to talk about specifically about a poultry type like broiler breeder, broiler, layer, turkeys, whatever, or if we want to just have a general Q&A section, questions and answer section, it's up to you. We can do that whatever it goes through. So I'm just gonna advance my slides. So in my recent video I talked about broiler breeder growth curve, and as I showed you, we can plot the growth data based on the age and we can get this black line. So this is the growth curve, but how can we use it? What does it tell us? So if you plot the body weight gain, as you can see in the blue curve, we can see there are three different phases, and they are like bell shape, and each one represents a growth phase. For example, phase 1 shows that during phase 1 it's a development of skeletal system, muscular system, digestive system, immune system. So as we pay attention to this phase, it's really critical. It means that we need to be really careful, especially during the first week, because the first week of broiler breeder management is really crucial, because you are going to build the fundamental of the bird, which is immune system and digestive system. That's why we need to use a robust diet. Sometimes, some people say, yeah, using pre-starter diet or super pre-starter diet is for broilers, not for broiler breeders, because broiler breeders are feed restricted and we don't really need to use pre-starter diet for them. But it is wrong. It is wrong because using pre-starter diet or super pre-starter diet during the first 10 days, it's not only to, increase the growth rate, it is mostly to develop a robust digestive system and immune system. That's why, because usually, especially in Alberta, where I am living, the 1 day old broiler breeders are shipped from US and they are shipped by truck and they are on the way traveling for at least for 48 hours. So it's a long time, and during their traveling in the truck, they don't really have access to a good environment, good diet. That's why when they arrived, we need to be a good host for them. We need to have a robust diet for them. And that's why phase 1 of growth is really important, and we need to pay specific attention to that. During phase 2, it's the development of reproductive system. Again, it's really crucial. As you can see, phase 2 starts around 12 weeks of age, and we would call it pubertal phase because our birds are going to be mature and they are going to start laying. And to start laying, they need some metabolic triggers. One of the most important triggers is fat deposition, because if they have fat, enough, abdominal fat, they are going to produce adiponectin, and by that they can signal to the brain and to the reproductive system that the bird is ready to start laying. That's why it's really, really important. So I'm just checking your comments here. Gerald, he says, I have been feeding pre-starters. Wrong mistake. I'm really learning. No worries. Yeah. So, yeah, as we are going through, we will learn more and more. Of course, it's this kind of live streaming. It's an opportunity for people to learn from each other and learn from each other experience. And I'm happy that we are doing this. So, as I was talking on phase 2, development of reproductive system, so it's really important to have a little bit fat accumulation. So by that, they can come into lay on time. And by that, we would have a uniform flock. I'll talk about that later on again. And phase 3, as you can see here, it is post-pubertal phase. It means that after pubertal phase, which for sure falls into the production system. And as you can see, body weight gain is slow by looking at this blue curve. But again, we need to keep them on target body weight as far as we can. So as we talked about growth curve, we need to specify the each phase's goals, and after that we want to set up our objectives. So in the next slide, I'm going to show you the objectives of growth and what we can do in real time for each growth phase. So again, let's have a quick look at this one. That's this growth curve. As you can see, until 28 days of age is the rapid development of immune, cardiovascular, and digestive system, skeletal system, feathers, and 50% of skeletal growth completed by 28 to 35 days of age. After that, let's say from 28 days of age all the way to 110 days of age, again growth continues, and development of immune system, cardiovascular system, skeletal system, feathers, they are developing, and by the end of 110 days 90% of skeletal growth is completed by around 80 to 95 days of age. So after that we have photostimulation, and as you can see here, it happens around 150 days of age for this breed, which is Ross. So before photostimulation and a little bit after that is acceleration growth and weight gain to prepare birds for sexual maturity and mating up. As I said, it's development in body frame and also accumulation of fat. Remember, our birds, our modern broiler breeders are leaner compared to the old breeds. It means that they have less fat, and it is not good. In the past, people were saying, okay, if you full fed your broiler breeder, you're going to have a problem because they will be really fat and having more fat, especially around the ovary, will compromise the egg production, egg fertility. It was for olden days breeders, not for modern broiler breeders. For modern broiler breeders, actually, the situation is vice versa. It means that they are lean and they do not have enough fat to really start the sexual maturity and egg production on time. So that's why it's really crucial to understand the growth curve and take action on time. I will talk about take action, what do I mean, in the next slide. So we want to build a good frame first, skeletal frame, and a robust immune system, digestive system, and then during the pubertal phase we are going to build body composition, which is fat deposition for the sexual maturity and for the period of egg production. Yeah, I've got a question about any idea about fat emulsifiers in diets. I know it is used in broilers, but not breeders and layers. So yeah, for fat emulsifiers, actually the idea of using any lipase enzyme or emulsifier is to promote the digestion of fat. So it is good for starter phase, because in starter phase, as we talked, digestive system is developing, and that's why the bird is not able to really digest fat completely, and we need to help bird. How? By introducing lipase, which will digest the fat, and emulsifier. By using emulsifier, we are promoting the absorption of fat, because by using emulsifiers we are going to have a good muscle structure in the gut, in the small intestine, and by that fatty acids can be absorbed very well. So that's a really good question. And I would say yes, for broiler breeders, for layers, for broilers, for turkeys, during starter diet, it's a good idea to use emulsifier. So let's move on to the next slide to see how we can really set up our objectives. During the first phase, our objective is to achieve a good chick start by providing adequate access to feed and water, to develop the skeletal, immune, and cardiovascular system, feather cover, and appetite. It's really important. And here, when I see feather cover is one of the most important managerial tips in the broiler breeders, especially during rearing phase, because during rearing phase, if your birds do not have enough feather cover, their maintenance cost, their energy maintenance cost will be high. It means that they don't have enough insulation, and by not having enough insulation against the environmental conditions and temperature, they will lose heat to the environment, and actually they are wasting the energy. So that energy comes from feed, right? So you are feeding your birds, but instead of putting it into growth, they are putting it into maintenance. That's why, especially during the rearing phase, your broiler breeders, your pullets, should have enough feather cover. And if you see feather pecking issue, I have seen it in broiler breeders as well. It's most common in layers, but again, in broiler breeders, especially during the first 2 or 3 months, you can see feather pecking, and it will going to ruin your profitability and ruin your energy partitioning in the bird. So that's why it's really important to have a good feather cover. But during the production, because they are going to mate, and by mating, sometimes you can see some bald area on the back of the females, which is okay, because if it is because of the mating, that's okay. But as I said, you need to be careful about feather cover during the rearing phase, to not waste your dietary energy into maintenance cost. So again, I've got a question here. Yeah, can you explain how to formulate a 35% concentrate, and what are the basics and what ingredients to use, especially for layer pullets? It's a really good question. For sure, I will create a video about that. Listen, if you look at my feed formulation videos, especially for the least cost feed formulation, the idea is the same. To create a concentrate, 35% concentrate or whatever, we are following exactly the same process. The only place that would differ is requirements. For example, when you are formulating a diet, for a complete diet for your birds, You are using their nutrient requirements based on the guideline. But when you are going to formulate a concentrate, like 35% concentrate, first you need to adjust nutrient specification for that concentrate, and then you are going to add other ingredients on top of that, right? You are going to advise producer, okay, if you are going to use this concentrate, add these ingredients as well. For example, corn, wheat, whatever. So by that, actually you are splitting your diet, your complete diet, into two sections. Concentrate, which should have high amount of protein, and some ingredients like corn or wheat or any other ingredient. So specifically, the purpose of using concentrate is to reduce the, using feed additives, especially feed additives. Instead of advising producer to use, I don't know, amino acids, synthetic amino acids, or dicalcium phosphate, salt, growth promoters, whatever, feed additives. You are bringing all of them into a concentrate, and then you are selling this concentrate and advising the producer, okay, just add some ingredients like energy ingredient and it's good to go. So the tricky part is to determine the nutrient specification or requirements. You need to have a nutrient specification for your concentrate. It means that how much energy should it have, how much protein, how much amino acids, and then you need to just formulate it using the least cost feed formulation method. And in my next videos I will explain the manual method to formulate the diets as well. So I've got another question: how can correct the feeds in case the pullets do not have enough feather covers? So if the birds do not have enough feather covers, usually it's related to dietary protein and amino acids, specifically sulfur amino acids. And we need to really pay attention to the dietary level of methionine and cysteine in the diet. Usually these are the factors that can influence the feather cover. Usually by not having a good amino acid balance in the diet, we can see these problems. Recently I was reading a good article, and it shows that even particle size, feed particle size, can affect feather pecking, because one of the reasons that you don't have a good feather cover can be related to the feather pecking issue. And by using coarse feed particles, sometimes we can see increase in feather pecking, and that's why we need to optimize the particle size as well. Here in Poultry Innovation Partnership, we are publishing monthly newsletter, and usually I'm writing those articles for our newsletter about knowledge nugget. We would call it knowledge nugget. And for this month, for December, I will publish an article on the effect of fiber and feed particle size in layers. And it should be online by less than 10 days, because usually we are aiming at the next week to publish our newsletter. So as soon as it's ready, you can just have a look at the article. The website address is poultryinnovationpartnership.ca. It's really straightforward. www.poultryinnovationpartnership.ca, and you can see the articles over there. And I will specifically be talking about the effect of particle size. I will touch on the effect of particle size on feather pecking as well. So again, I have got another question. How do we correct and what products I can use to compensate a layer pullet which is behind its target body weight at that week? So it's a really good question. The most important part of the diet that you need to pay attention to, it's energy. Because energy is the first driver of your nutrient intake and absorption and digestion in the diet. It means that if you are behind the target body weight, so it means that you need to increase feed intake. By increasing feed intake, so usually for broiler breeders, it's not a really big problem because they have a good appetite. Or for broilers, they have good appetite. They are eating as much as you give them. Even if you feed them ad lib, they will eat whatever you are giving to them. But for layers, it's a little bit tricky because layers' appetite is less than, broiler breeders or broilers. And that's why we really need to pay attention to that. So you need to encourage the feed intake. To encourage the feed intake, you can add coarse materials like, let's say, coarse limestone or coarse, materials like oyster shell meal on the top of the feed, so to encourage them to eat. Or sometimes people using molasses to add on the feed because it can encourage the feed intake. So it's really to increase the feed intake. If you are dealing with small layers, the best way to correct the issue is to increase feed intake and also pay specific attention to the diet quality. It means that protein level, energy level, and all the amino acids should be balanced relative to the energy. If you are going to increase the energy level, you need to increase other nutrients level as well, or vice versa. If you are going to moderate the energy level a little bit, decrease it, you need to adjust other nutrients levels as well. Yeah, exactly. The problem with increasing feed is the economic cost. I agree. But if you watch the maximum profit feed formulation method in my YouTube channel, I have touched a little bit about this. Increasing cost is just one part of the profit formula. Yes, by increasing feed intake, we are increasing the feed cost. But what about the profit? Are we decreasing the profit or are we increasing the profit? It depends. It depends on the revenue side of the formula, because for the profit we say profit equals revenue or income minus cost, right? If you are increasing cost, yes, I agree that profit would be decreased, but what about the income? If by increasing cost, it means that by increasing feed intake or by increasing feed quality, you are going to increase the production and increase the revenue. In that case, you need to think again about profit formula. Maybe you are increasing the profit as well. So in broiler breeders, one of the most important things is that the growth curve that you can see on the guidelines, they are not coming from the holy book. It means that you can't say, okay, this growth curve is the best one and I need to keep my birds, either they are, I don't know, layers, broiler breeders, on the target body weight. No. Sometimes the growth curves are suboptimal. Specifically, I have talked about this in one of my publications. I have provided the link for that publication in my last video's description part. If you just follow the link, you will be directed to the article. The name of article is Architecture of Energy Partitioning in Broiler Breeders. So in that article, we have shown that we need to increase the target body weight. It means that for different growth phases, the growth curve that has been recommended by breeder manual guide is suboptimal, and we need to increase it a little bit. So in that article, we have shown the best growth curve and the best energy partitioning formula for birds. And at the end of the day, I ran an economic analysis by the method of partial budget. Maybe we can talk about that in one of our live sessions, or maybe I can make a video about partial budget. And it was really interesting. As we increase the target body weight, although the feed intake was increased and the cost went up, but because chick production was increased, at the end of the day, when we calculated the profit, that higher growth curve was most profitable. So that's why we shouldn't just think about cost. Thinking just about cost is superficial. We need to invest in our birds to get the best performance. So that's why don't worry about increasing feed intake or increasing feed cost. Okay. Yeah, for sure. About the highlights of findings about feed particle size, I will share it in that article, in our newsletter article, which is published online by poultryinnovationpartnership.ca. I will talk about that for sure. So yeah, I really appreciate that you are asking your questions here, and let's move on and go a little bit further, and again I will be happy to answer your questions. So in the next phase, from 28 days of age all the way to, let's say, 60 days of age, our objective is to achieve target body weight with minimum CV, or coefficient of variation. CV is an indicator of flock uniformity. And the lower CV, the better. If you have a CV of, let's say, 10%, it shows that your the distribution of body weight in your birds is around 10% of the mean body weight or average body weight. Let's say if your average body weight is 2 kilogram or 2000 grams, so 10% of 2000 grams would be 200 grams. It means that 2000 grams plus minus 200 grams, which would give you 1800 grams all the way to 2200 grams. It means that if your CV is 10%, so your bird's body weight is distributed between 1800 grams and 2200 grams, which is good. CV of 10% is a good indicator. And it shows that I forgot to mention this, 68% of your birds falls into this range, 68%. And it really needs to, understand the normal distribution curve, because 68% of the population usually falls into average plus minus 1 standard deviation. And to calculate the CV, usually we use standard deviation by saying standard deviation of our body weight divided by mean body weight or average body weight times 100. I will show you a calculation example in the next video for sure, and you can understand the concept of CV. So during the next phase, again, our objective is to follow body weight profile and maintain uniformity. Yeah, that's great. My CV before production was less than 10%. It's awesome. It shows that your flock was really uniform. It's good to have a less than 10% CV, but again, we really need to investigate more to see if your birds were on target body weight or below target body weight or above target body weight. This is important as well. So CV is one indicator, and the second indicator for sure should be investigation of the body weight, and also body composition, body conformation. I just remembered this. Sometimes we are just talking about managing body weight. For example, we are saying, okay, what's your body weight at 15 weeks of age or 18 weeks of age? So listen, you can have two birds with identical body weight. For example, two birds, both of them, let's say, is 1500 grams, but one of them is tall and slender, the other one would be short and fat. So that's why just relying on body weight would be misleading sometimes. That's why we need to pay specific attention to body conformation and body composition as well. For example, for body conformation, you can measure your bird's shank length on their feet. You need to measure the shank length to see. It's an indicator of body conformation, to see if your birds have developed a good frame or not. For the body composition, one method is to just measure the skin thickness on the abdominal part by using a caliper to, find the skin fold thickness. And there is a formula. You can use that formula and you can put that skin fold thickness in the formula, and you can estimate the body fat content. So it's really good to estimate the body composition. So one more question here. Yeah, the previous one says my flock is 2,000 pullets, but I get only 1,500 eggs per day. Why? So we need to know the age of the birds, because when you look at the egg production curve, maybe your birds are before peak production or after peak production. So we need to know the age, and if they are producing less eggs compared to their standard egg production curve, we need to be suspicious about their body reserves. Maybe they have not developed a good body reserves during the rearing phase, because for the egg production, especially for the first part, I mean before peak production, usually your feed doesn't play an important role. Of course it's important, feed during the laying phase is important, but most important than that is the body reserves that you have accumulated during the rearing phase. Body storage and body conformation. As I mentioned an example, if you have two birds, one of them is short, fat, one of them is tall, slender, so their capacity, their body capacity to reserve those nutrients that are essential for the laying phase would be different. Especially before peak production, they are using body protein and release it to make eggs, so, or the body fat, because it's important. It's similar to dairy cow nutrition. In dairy cow nutrition, before milk peak production, they are using their body reserves, and if we don't manage them properly, they are going to end up with metabolic disorders like ketosis or other metabolic disorders. It's true for birds as well. So that's why if you find your age and compared it to the standard egg production, and again you see drop in egg production, you need to be suspicious to your rearing phase as well. Another question I have got here: what feed additives and products do you recommend to use in growing layer pullets? So for the growing layer pullets, because they are going to get ready for egg production in the future, of course you need to have a good digestion and absorption of feed. One of the feed additives that I would highly recommend is using a multi-enzyme in your diet to boost the digestion and absorption. If you are using fat, do not forget to balance your lysine level and also use carnitine. Carnitine is good to burn fat, because you you are feeding fat in your diet, but it needs to be digested and absorbed and then metabolized. For the fat digestion level, we are recommending enzymes like lipase enzyme, which is already in your multi-enzyme composition. For the after digestion is absorption, right? For the absorption level, we are recommending emulsifiers. If you have emulsifier in your diet, you're gonna increase the absorption of fat. But after absorption, this fat actually has two paths. One path is to go and accumulate it in the body. The second path is to go and be metabolized, and converted to energy. For the metabolism part, you need to have enough carnitine and enough lysine, because lysine is the precursor for carnitine. What is carnitine? Carnitine is located in the mitochondrial membrane, and its job is a carrier. Its job is to grab fatty acid and bring it into mitochondria to burn it, to go to beta oxidation process and to burn the fat and get energy out of it. So you need to have enough amounts of carnitine on your mitochondrial. So that's why we need to use carnitine and also lysine when we are using fat in our diet. So, and the next question, what's the dosage of molasses you recommend, and should I do it on top of feed? Yes, you need to do on top of feed. Usually start with 1%. 1% of the feed, and you can go to 2% after that, just to encourage the feed intake, because we really need to encourage feed intake, especially in layers. So Ritu says we don't use fat, so for layer pullets, I would definitely use fat, because using fat is not only to increase dietary energy, most importantly is to provide essential fatty acids. If we are not using fat, we may end up with shortage in essential fatty acids, which will compromise our production. So I remember in 2010, I think 2009, 2010, I was rearing layer flock, and for all phases I was using fat, and it was soya fat, soy oil, and it had good quality, and I was really satisfied with that. So I would highly recommend to use a good source of fatty acids to provide essential fatty acids for your birds, especially during the laying phase. One of the factors that will affect your egg production and egg size is linoleic acid, which is a fatty acid, and it needs to come from your dietary fat. So that's why I would highly recommend to use it. All right, so during the third phase, our objective is to follow body weight profile and maintain uniformity again. Here there is an important thing. Redraw target weight at 63 days of age if necessary. I have talked about redrawing the target body weight for underweight and overweight birds in my last video. So make sure to watch that video. It's really important, because if your birds are small and you want to bring them on the target body weight, you can't do that overnight. You can't do that, in a week. You can say, okay, this week my body weight is low. I'm gonna bring them on the target body weight by the end of next week. Yeah, you can increase feed intake, you can do that, but it's dangerous, because you are going to compromise the bird's metabolism. Any changes in feed intake needs to be small and steady. And one more important thing. This is a good tip for all poultry breeds like turkeys, broilers, broiler breeders, layers, whatever. Whenever you are moving from one phase to another phase, I mean nutritional phase, let's say from starter to grower to finisher to layer to whatever, you need to be consistent with your ingredients. It's crucial. Sometimes some producers, they buy a locally available ingredient, but it's not enough. So they are using it, let's say, for one phase for several weeks, and then they are switching to another diet and they don't have enough of that ingredients, and they are going to substitute it with another ingredient. It means that they are not consistent in their feed ingredients. It's going to compromise your bird's performance. For example, here in Canada, one of the local feed which is getting more attention is fava beans. Fava beans, can be used in poultry diets, but our producers are a little bit hesitant to use it. You know why? Because of the supply of the fava beans. They say, okay, if I use it, let's say for my layers, and let's say after, I don't know, 1 month, 2 months, I can't get enough supply of fava beans, I need to replace it with other ingredients, which would create me, problem, because I want to be consistent as much as possible during my production or during my rearing phase. So it's really important to be consistent with the feed ingredients. All right. So during the next phase, which is, before photostimulation, the objective is to prepare birds for sexual maturity and mating, and we need to support reproductive development. As I said, development of body frame and also fat accumulation are really important during this phase. So, my last slide for today. After that, we can listen again to your questions. Usually, objectives during the rearing phase are to reduce stress as much as possible, maintain bird growth, achieve a minimum of 68% average uniformity, but it is minimum. The more the better. And ensure the 7-day body weight is on the target. And then strictly control body weight from the 2nd week to 4 weeks. So it's really important. And also this 7-day body weight, we are not just talking about broiler breeders. For broilers, again, this is really important. You need to manage your bird during the first week very well by using pre-starter diet, super pre-starter diet, by controlling the environmental conditions, by controlling flaws. Flaws stands for feed, light, water, air quality, sanitation, biosecurity, all of these. I have talked about these in my previous videos. So if you have a good body weight on 7 days of age, you're gonna have a good management in your barn. So it's really crucial to pay attention to that. After 7 days or after the first week, you need to follow the guideline, I mean body weight target, until 4 weeks of age. And this is one of the most important things. Again, I'm gonna talk about that. So after that, all the way to from second week all the way to 10 weeks of age, you need to go on the target body weight. But if you are slightly under target body weight, it is okay and it's good because you are decreasing the maintenance cost. But after 10 weeks of age, all the way to puberty, you need to go on the target body weight or above the target body weight to accumulate fat and to build a good body reserves for the laying phase. So I would say the take-home message, I would say from this live stream would be this: try to go on the target body weight or slightly under target body weight all the way to 10 weeks of age, and after 10 weeks of age all the way to sexual maturity, try to go on the target body weight or above target body weight to build that frame and accumulate enough fat. So I think that was all for my today's live presentation. Let's just have a look at the questions again. My 1 million layer pullets are all reaching target body weight until 10 weeks of age. Afterwards, they are falling behind. On what things should I focus on? Yeah, you need to pay attention to the energy partitioning. If there is anything that drawing their energy into maintenance, because it happens after 10 weeks of age, any factors that can affect maintenance cost can create this problem. It means that if you are on the target body weight, just pay attention. If you are increasing maintenance cost, if so, they are going to use most of the energy for maintenance after 10 weeks of age, and that's why they are not going to grow very well. That would be one important thing. Another thing that can affect energy, maintenance cost is feather cover, as we talked about that. So it's really important to pay attention to feather covers and to have a good feather cover, and pay specific attention to environmental conditions, especially dust. Because you are talking about layers, I'm not sure if you are using free run or which system. Usually in some systems that we are using in Canada, we have dust problem, and it can create this problem as well, because if the environment is dusty and you can't control that, it's gonna compromise the body weight as well, and it's gonna trigger the immune system, and by that again you are increasing the maintenance cost. So anything that increases energy maintenance cost, we need to avoid that as much as possible. Okay, you are using a cage and battery in India. All right. Environmental controlled shed. Yeah, these are, some examples that I'm giving you, but you need to figure it out in your barn that what factors actually can affect maintenance cost. Usually, if maintenance cost is high for our birds, it's going to compromise our growth. And again, be consistent with your feed and feed ingredients, and usually drop in body weight around starting the production in layers in 18 weeks of age is normal. If you see drop in their body weight around 18 weeks of age, it's normal. Don't worry about that. It's a normal thing. But you are saying after 10 weeks of age, so it should go on the target at least by the 18 weeks of age. But around 18 weeks of age, if you see drop, it would be normal. The other question is, why do birds above the target body weight perform better than the ones on the target body weight? That's a really good question. Because if we are going above target body weight, we are building body reserves for their future. That's why they will have enough deposition of fat and protein, amino acids for their laying phase, and especially they can use it, they can release it before peak production, and by that they can support their production. That's why going above target body weight is recommended. And one interesting thing is that in one of our trials we created some energy partitioning models, and then we used breeder recommended energy level in that models to predict body weight. And after predicting body weight for each ages by that model, we plotted the growth curve. And interestingly, we saw that target body weight, that target growth curve, was a little bit higher compared to the growth curve that was recommended by that breeder company. You know what I mean? It means that they have provided two elements, let's say, in their manual guide. One is target growth curve, target body weight. The second is target energy intake. It means that if a producer follows target energy in the feed, they are going to end up with heavier birds compared to the breeder recommended target body weight. And when we talked to that company, they said, yes, we have experienced this. All around the world, whoever went based on our energy recommended data, they had a little bit heavier flock. And that's why, as I mentioned, especially after 10 weeks of age, it's a good idea to go a little bit above the target body weight to accumulate enough body reserves for the production. All right, I think it's here in Alberta, it's 11:16, and I'm thinking that maybe we can end our live here, and thank you very much for joining us today. Feel free to share your ideas. Some of you already have my phone number for WhatsApp. If you want, I can share it here as well. It is 780-850-9735. You can share your ideas about the topics for our future live streams, and we can use them. We can use those ideas to create content and to have discussion. Today's live was really good, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm not sure if you okay, I was just checking my phone. That's okay, I got the right screen here. I was just worried that the screen is not right. Okay, so by that, have a great day or great evening wherever you are, and let's plan for our next live streaming. Have a great time and see you later. Bye.